This first one, this talks about sins you have, I guess. This one is for hydrogen. It's hydrogen cyanide. He was once a college chemistry professor, but the Waffen-SS assigned him to work at Nazi propaganda station in Berlin until the Reichsmain security office ordered him to go to the Hellcamp to get paperwork. He left his wife and 2 children for the 2-day trip, and he arrived. And when he did arrive, the lieutenant general wasn't there. He wasn't in his office, which left him alone at the camp. In the offices, he paced. A part of him didn't want to go outside, but there was safety inside those office walls. But after nearly an hour of pacing, he decided to just go out there, face it, get it over with. The air felt heavy when he stepped outside. He could feel the weight of the move he made. His legs grew heavier. He dragged his feet toward the open walkway. That was where the heavy haze was in the air. He knew the chemical reactions that caused that distinct smell, the smoke and haze working its way through the camp. He saw across the clearing the doors closed to the showers, and he then walked with a new determination to bring himself to that hall. He could hear the sounds of people inside grow louder, and then he caught a glimpse of a guard that was making his way to the roof. As he got closer, he watched the soldier open what looked like a can and shake it into the vent at the center of the building before closing the vent and walking toward the ladder back down. From the moment that contents from that can made its way into that building, with every subsequent step he took, he heard the wails and screams get louder and louder from the Jews inside. He stopped for a moment. Look, he thought, he knew what this was. Get used to this. Then he saw the soldier walking down that ladder from the building. He caught up to the soldier, asked him for the can in his hand, so he asked if he could see it. And once he had it in his hand, he looked at the elements on the label. Zyklon B, hydrogen cyanide. He knew this poisonous liquid boiled just above room temperature, so all they had to do was drop it in from a sealed can into an open hall, poisoning thousands in less than a half hour. He knew the Germans first thought of using this prussic acid against Napoleon in 1914, and if they had, that would have been the first time hydrogen cyanide was used in warfare. But look at him now, this chemistry professor, reduced to thinking of how the Jews inhale this bitter almond smell of hydrogen cyanide until combined with their white blood cells, starving them of oxygen until they died. He suddenly needed to take a deep breath. He saw the blue stains on the concrete walls before returning the empty can to the soldier. The soldier, making some small talk, said, "One of the other Jews pleaded to me. I'm a decorated World War I vet in an artillery battalion. We shot gas shells at the enemy. I shouldn't be here. My paperwork's in my luggage." And we just told him, just go walk into the showers. And he knew in World War II we shot those shells in the trenches in France, so he shrugged to commiserate and knew that everyone here fights their own battles in this war. He told the soldier to notify him once the screams inside stopped and they opened those doors and started the crematorium. He walked away 50 meters. He clutched at his pockets to find his cigarettes and lighter. He wanted anything to calm him down so he could focus on anything else until it was time. He stood in the field chain smoking until he heard their running footsteps in the distance. Then he looked at his pocket watch. 20 minutes had passed. The gas chambers were open, and he waved to the soldier and quickened his pace to get to the building. There were different soldiers there this time as he walked into the doorway. It was dark inside, but he could make out a pyramid of people toward that small, now-closed center vent. From what he could tell, it looked like the Jews tossed their babies and their small children toward the top in an effort to help the children live. Once one of the soldiers passed him, he asked him how long he'd been doing this. Nearly a year, he answered. So he had to ask if doing this, if seeing this bothered him. The man only answered, if you do something long enough, you get used to anything. And with that, he nodded slightly and knew he saw enough. He walked away. He later got the paperwork as quickly as possible so that he could get out of there as quickly as possible. The tension knot shrunk in his stomach as he got home, but when he pulled into the driveway, he saw his wife sitting outside their home with the windows open. Getting out of the car, he heard her coughing, sounding more and more hoarse with each gasp. He only wanted to hold her, but the concern overtook him when she explained that she had just got a pesticide fumigant throughout the house and she couldn't breathe inside those walls. He looked at the second floor of the house for the children, and she told him they were staying at a friend's house. That chemistry professor could see that the fumigant that was killing the vermin inside of their home, hydrogen cyanide, was now in their home. A form of Zyklon B was in their home. And all she was trying to do is kill the vermin. And the propaganda ministry he now worked for is telling the nation that the Jews are the rats, that the Jews are the vermin. So he looked at their house and he told them that they have to get out of here as soon as possible, tonight, as far as they possibly could. They'll get their children as they'll make their way, make their effort to save themselves. And he held her close before they left their German home, holding hands. And the only reason why I was going to do this one is because people were, somebody was talking about Vietnam, and this one is white phosphorus. Seeing bombs from Vietnam and the white smoke rising, with each bomb exploding, I knew that smoke from when I served. It was Willie Pete's, white phosphorus. You couldn't put it out once it started burning. This stuff would destroy the forest foreign to our U.S. troops. I know you don't understand, but I wanted you to know that I haven't felt close to anyone or anything in years. It sounds sick, but seeing that footage, seeing that white smoke from that foul footage, it brought it all back to me. It brought all the emotions flooding back to me like it was yesterday. Everything that seems so volatile about that war, in a way, has become a part of me, right down to my DNA. You look at your TV screen and you think it makes no sense, but it's a part of me. I know I'm old now. I know it's only a small part of me, but I know I need it. I can't explain why, but I do. When you see the destruction of Willie Pete, yeah, we knew what it was, white phosphorus, but we all just called it that. It was just easier to say back then. But when you see the destruction of that white phosphorus, you think of it in some existential level, like, oh, violence is bad. But when I see those bombs going off, when I think of what it was like to live in that war, that Willie Pete, that white phosphorus, to us, it was our key of getting through that war. You can't understand, but that was the closest we had to getting out alive. Because I didn't do that before. This one is my helium poem, a second helium one, called Helium Addiction. That's how I feel all
Got a heckler, I'm sorry.
Pretty awesome. This is Helium Addiction. Since I lost my job welding cars, I thought I'd get my truck driving license and make my money on the open road. So when I applied for a truck driver's job for moving compressed helium from California to Maine, they asked if I could drive a truck. And when I said I could, they gave me the keys. And this truck's a beaut with a bed of 9 cylinders of that precious helium. And I hear there's only so much helium on Earth, so I really had some precious cargo to haul. Now, since I love driving and I know how to weld, I rented the tools and I bought the tubing. And after Arizona, I had my rig set up so I could do helium hits on the open road. I mean, I had 9 huge tanks of helium all compressed. It was like workers' comp. You can always skim off the top, they won't even notice. Now, this made New Mexico and Texas really fun, and I ignored the wind sweeping down the plains of Oklahoma, and I had my helium. But after Missouri, through Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, the cops always pulled me over for erratic driving. But I can't let go of my helium high. The cops would ask me for paperwork, and I would just happily comply. I was a little hyper, but I'd happily comply. Hey, you seem to be driving erratically. Have you slept recently? Yes, sir. I'm just so excited. I love this job. And after the cops looked at me funny, they started writing me down for warrants and then warnings and sending me on my way. So I'd always look at my clock radio and limit my helium puffs to every time I saw a good-looking seat cover in a passing car. But those hotties were few and far between, so I checked my clock radio and puffed every 7 minutes. So when my helium high lasted only for like 7 seconds, I still had 7 more states before I could deliver my precious helium. Well, that's when I drove north instead of going through to Maine, and I went to Michigan, and I left my life and this country with my precious helium. And yeah, I miss my family and friends, but I've only scratched the surface with my 9 lives of helium. And really, that helium high is really worth all the world. Thank you.